Most people think dynamic workflows are just subagents with parallel execution, but they're not. The Claude Code subreddit erupted when workflows shipped 1,300 upvotes on one post, 500 plus on a cheat sheet within 48 hours. The hype is real, but the comments reveal the problem. I don't get when to use these versus subagents. The token bill is insane. Everyone's running the demos. Almost nobody understands the architecture. I'm a software engineer, and I've dug deep into these systems to figure them out. And by the end of this video, you'll know how the orchestration runtime actually works, the 5 patterns that matter, the token economics nobody's talking about, when to walk away from workflows entirely, and a decision framework so you know what to reach for every single time. Before we compare anything, we need to clear up the biggest misconception about what dynamic workflows are. The old model of Claude Code is simple. You open a session, ask it to do something, it reads files and responds. It can spawn subagents, a few delegated tasks per turn, but Claude holds the plan. It decides what to delegate, collects results, decides what to do next, turn by turn. Context grows linearly and quality degrades linearly. Everything we do, Claude.md, work trees, checkpointing, is about managing the limits of a single thread assistant. The new model is fundamentally different. When you run a dynamic workflow, Claude Code writes a JavaScript orchestration script on the fly. That script becomes the runtime. The orchestrator's job is not to do the work, it's to decompose the task, assign subtasks to parallel agents, collect results, synthesize them, and surface the final output to you. Claude isn't the worker anymore, it's the engineering manager. The distinction isn't parallel versus sequential. Subagents already run in parallel, a few per turn. The real distinction is who holds the plan. With subagents, Claude holds the plan turn by turn. With workflows, the plan is the script. The harness executes autonomously. This unlocks 3 things that nothing else in Claude Code can do at the same scale. First, orchestrated parallelism at scale. Subagents can delegate a few tasks per turn. Workflows fan out to dozens per run, up to 16 concurrently, up to 1,000 total. The throughput difference on large tasks is not incremental. It's an order of magnitude. Second, adversarial verification. Multiple agents review each other's output before anything surfaces to you. One agent drafts, another critiques, a third resolves the conflict. This is structured adversarial review built into the workflow itself. Third is resumability within the same session. Press P to pause or resume the entire run, R to restart an individual agent, S to save the orchestration script as a reusable slash command. One caveat, this only works within the same Claude Code session. Exit and restart and the workflow starts fresh. There are 2 ways to launch workflows. Type /workflows and follow the prompts. Or you can set /effort to alter code. That combines extra high reasoning with automatic workflow orchestration. You can also just include the word alter code in your prompt and Claude Code will decide whether a workflow is the right tool. This is what most people miss entirely. The /workflows dashboard is the control plane, and it looks closer to a job orchestrator than a chatbot. P pauses, X stops, R restarts, S saves. Enter drills into any individual agent to see exactly what it's doing, what it's reading, what it's producing. And here's the part that a lot of people miss. The orchestration script that Claude writes, the JavaScript harness that coordinates the entire run, that script is the workflow, not the agents, not the individual tasks, the harness. The harness is the product, the agents are just labor. And that's it for the architecture. Now let's talk about the 5 patterns that actually matter. Several excellent creators, including Mark Kashif, have published tactical walkthroughs covering 6 workflow patterns from the dynamic workflows launch. But one of those 6, classify and act, is essentially a single agent routing pattern. It doesn't actually use the orchestration runtime in any meaningful way. It's pattern 0. We're going to focus on the 5 that actually do. So pattern 1, fan out and synthesize. Research 50 companies, audit 100 API endpoints, review every file in a repository, decompose into independent subtasks, fan out to parallel agents, and the orchestrator synthesizes everything into a single report. This is the one everyone starts with, and for a good reason. /deep research is the pattern with a specific prompt template. Use it when subtasks are independent and the value is in the synthesis. Pattern 2 is adversarial verification. This one surprises people the most. One agent produces, another critiques, specifically looking for errors, omissions, and faulty assumptions. A third resolves the conflicts and produces the final output. Use it for security audits, compliance checks, architectural decisions with high downstream costs, any task where correctness matters more than speed. And pattern 3 is tournament, the most counterintuitive one. Multiple agents solve the same problem independently. Their outputs compete. The orchestrator picks the winner or synthesizes the best part of each. You're running the same work multiple times on purpose, paying 2 to 5 times the token cost. Because you don't know what good looks like up front and the agents subagents might discover fundamentally different approaches. Use it for creative work with no single correct answer. Pattern 4, generate and filter. The volume pattern. Generate hundreds of candidates at low cost, then filter down to the best few with a more expensive evaluation step. One set of agents generates rapidly, a separate evaluation agent scores everything against a quality rubric. Only the top results survive. Use it for test case generation, content at scale, and finding edge cases in large input spaces. Pattern 5, loop until done, the persistence pattern. The workflow loops each iteration building on the last until a quality gate is met. An evaluation agent checks the output at every iteration and makes one of two decisions: ship it or run another iteration. Use it when you have a measurable, automatable quality threshold. Refactoring with the test-based gates, research that needs iterative deepening. If you can write a test that determines whether the output is good enough, loop until done will keep iterating until the test passes. And that's it for patterns. Now let's talk about what these actually cost. The token economics of workflows is the conversation nobody's having publicly. One Reddit post with 160 upvotes called Workflows Insane, and half the 48 comments were about cost. The question is not whether workflows are powerful. The question is when the power is worth the price. There are 3 cost multipliers you need to understand. First is agent count times model. Every agent uses whatever model is active when you initiate. 50 agents on Opus 4.8 is not the same cost as 50 on Sonnet. The slash model command tells you what's active. The slash model command tells you what's active. Check it before every workflow run. This check can be the difference between a $2 run and a $20+ run. And the Reddit threads are full of people who learn this by looking at their billing dashboard the next morning. Second is orchestration overhead. The harness itself burns tokens. Planning the decomposition, assigning subtasks, synthesizing results, this overhead is fixed. On large tasks, the parallelism gain far exceeds it. On small tasks, the overhead can exceed the entire benefit of running the workflow at all. Third, the verification tax. Adversarial verification and tournament patterns literally run the same work multiple times by design. You are paying 2 to 5 times the token cost for quality assurance. That is not a bug, that is the price of correctness guarantee. Here's the rough break-even heuristic. If you have fewer than 5 truly independent subtasks, workflows lose money. The orchestration overhead exceeds the parallelism gain. So in that case, use subagents or sequential. If you have 5 to 20 subtasks, that's the break-even zone. The outcome depends on how independent the subtasks actually are. If you have more than 20 subtasks, workflows crush it. Parallelism dominates and the synthesis value is real, but there's a hidden cost that most people don't think about. If Claude misjudges the task structure and fans out to agents whose work depends on each other, you pay for parallelism you can't use. Agents sit idle while waiting for upstream results. You get sequential performance at parallel prices. This is the single most common reason workflow token bills surprise people. There's also a hidden benefit, and that's session health. A workflow that fans out to 50 agents and returns a single synthesized result keeps the main session context clean. The alternative, 50 sequential subagent calls, bloats the context window and degrades quality with every call. Sometimes workflows are cheaper than the degradation they prevent. And that's it for economics. So workflows are powerful but expensive. Here's when you should not use them at all. Nobody covers this part, but knowing when to walk away from workflows is more important than knowing every pattern. Run a workflow on the wrong task and you burn tokens for worse output than sequential execution would have given you for free. Signal 1, the task is a conversation. If you need to explore, refine, change direction based on intermediate results, workflows are the wrong tool. Workflows execute a plan, not a dialogue. Signal 2, subtasks depend on each other. If step 3 needs the output of step 2, which needs step 1, you cannot fan out. The workflow degrades to sequential execution with orchestration overhead layered on top. Just run a subagent chain. Signal 3, the quality bar is low. If good enough is actually good enough, a quick script, a simple file change, the orchestration overhead is pure waste. Not every task needs an engineering manager. Signal 4, you cannot describe the output. Workflows need a clear target. If the task is I'll know it when I see it, Claude cannot build a precise enough harness. Garbage decomposition produces garbage results stacked on a high token bill. Here's the decision tree. Question 1, can I clearly specify the desired output upfront? If no, use sequential execution. If yes, continue. Question 2, does the task decompose into 5 or more independent subtasks? If no, use subagents. If yes, continue. Question 3, is correctness more important important than speed? If yes, consider adversarial verification or tournament. If no, fan out and synthesize. Question 4, is there a measurable quality gate? If yes, loop until done. If no, generate a filter or single pass fan out. The framework is not about being right every time. It's about knowing what question to ask before you burn 500,000 tokens on the wrong approach. 30 seconds of thinking through a decision tree separates a productive workflow run from an expensive mistake. And that's it, but there's a quick warning. 3 patterns that kill workflows regardless of how well you apply the framework. First, treating workflows as better subagents. They are not a better version of subagents. They are a different architecture entirely. Using workflows for subagent sized tasks is like hiring a project manager to change a light bulb. Second, not checking slash model before running. 50 agents on Opus versus Sonnet is not a small difference. Check your active model every time. Third, skipping the orchestration script review. Before execution, Claude shows you the planned phases, decomposition, agent assignments, synthesis strategy. That 10-second review catches bad decomposition before it costs you hundreds of thousands of tokens. Most people just hit approve without reading it. One caveat, in auto mode, the review prompt only appears on the first launch. In non-interactive modes like Claude-P or Agent SDK, you won't see it at all. Review your orchestration script in an interactive session at least once before letting it run unattended. One last really important thing, dynamic workflows are not about running more agents. They're about Claude Code understanding your task well enough to build a custom machine for it. The harness is the product, the agents are just labor. The skill that compounds is not running workflows, it's learning to describe tasks precisely enough that Claude can decompose them correctly. That skill transfers across every tool and every platform. At the end of the day, understanding the fundamentals of multi-agent coordination, decomposition, parallelization, synthesis verification is the most important factor for using any tool. The specific commands change, the architecture underneath it doesn't. So a quick recap, 5 layers. Layer 1, the architectural shift. Claude Code writes a JavaScript harness that becomes the orchestration runtime. One brain coordinating many. The harness is the product. Layer 2, the 5 patterns. Fan out and synthesize for independent research. Adversarial verification for correctness. Tournament for creative exploration. Generate and filter for high volume candidates. Loop until done for measurable quality gates. Layer 3, token economics. Agent count times model plus orchestration overhead plus verification tax. Break even at roughly 5 independent tasks. Layer 4, when not to use workflows if the task is a conversation, if subtasks are dependent, if the quality bar is low, or if you cannot describe the output, walk away. Layer 5, the decision framework. 4 questions. Can you specify the output? 5 plus independent subtasks, correctness or speed, measurable quality gates. Answer these before you run any workflow. If you want the full companion guide on Claude Code workflows, make sure to join the school community. The link is in the description and it's completely free for now. And if you want to learn in depth how to build multi-agent systems that drive real value, make sure to like and follow. I read every single comment, so let me know below what you want to see in the next video. I'll see you there.